right, so you're at Joveo now. You're going to demo that. Just mouse over your picture. You'll see a share screen icon there.
Okay.
And you can get rolling. And you got 10 minutes to demo. I'll time you.
Sounds good. And can you see my screen?
Yes, we can. Excellent.
Awesome. So hey, everybody. Dan Saper here. I lead global business strategy at Joveo. Before I get into what we do, I like to talk about what Joveo stands for. Joveo stands for a job for everyone. And that's really every decision we make is really about trying to connect the right job seeker to the right job, and doing that by connecting them to job sites and kind of bringing the three together in the best, most efficient, effective way possible, right? And when we talk to recruitment teams, whether it's recruiters or VPs of talent or anything in between, there's really three different categories that we hear as themes that all really roll up into recruiting is super annoying, and we want to help with that, right? The first area is quality, right? We talk to a lot of people that say, you know, today I get a lot of applications, but it's really hard to, you know, go through all these applies and figure out which ones are going to turn into hires, right? There's just so much noise. The second is they want to lower their cost, right? And that doesn't necessarily mean they want to take their $100,000 budget and turn it to 50 grand or whatever they might be at their organization. What it really means is that their finance department says, here's your annual budget that you get, here's your monthly budget out of that. And they want to know, how can they get more hires out of the finite budget that they have? Because let's face it, most hiring organizations, they don't have enough budget to hire everybody, and they're trying to stretch that as far as possible. And then the final piece that we hear as a theme is they really don't know what the best is out there. Especially since COVID, we've seen a lot of marketplaces become more expensive. And they know that there's something else out there. They know that there's something else they could be doing to drive really good candidate flow. They just don't know what it is, right? And it's really hard to figure out what's the right one to test. And if you test it, how do you measure one against the other? And so they're looking to get more insight out of the data. The challenge, of course, is it's really hard to find the data and make the best of it yourself. And a lot of times recruiters are left guessing what's going to work the best, right? And that's really what Joveo solves for. We are a data-driven sourcing platform specific to talent acquisition, right? We call ourselves a programmatic job distribution platform. That's really a fancy way of saying we make hiring outcome decisions on behalf of a ton of direct employers, staffing firms, RPOs, job boards, recruitment marketing agencies, anything under the sun, right? So let's say we're working with a direct employer. We take their jobs into our system, and because we see so many jobs and jobs that look just like those that are on similar ATSs, whether it's, you know, a long form apply process that takes 30 minutes or a short form that, you know, is really easy to get through, we've seen many jobs that look just like those in the same categories in the same locations. And our system will say, hey, here are the sites that are the most likely to do the best job for that particular employer and those particular jobs, right? And so if we take an example, it might say, you know, let's say we have 3 different job sites we send those jobs out to. Job site 1, we say, hey, it's going to work in this way, and it did exactly what we thought. So we're not going to make any changes there. Job site 2, it performed 3 times as well as we thought it was going to. So it makes a ton of sense to say in real time, you know what, let's dig further into them. Let's rely more on them for this particular campaign, for that particular job, because they're doing such a good job. And maybe job site 3 did a pretty awful job, and we're saying, you know what, let's reduce our dependency on them or fully take them out of the system. Now, in this case, we're talking about 3 different job sites. Reality is we're working with massively large enterprises, staffing firms, and so on. So we're not just using 3 sites, we're using thousands of different job sites and other websites where we can find candidate flow, and we're making real-time decisions. So we'll once again send it to all the different sites, see what's working, what's not, and continue to iterate in real time, so that over time we just get a really efficient spend, which has really good hiring outcomes for our employers that we work with. A few different themes that we solve for, right? So we're no longer does the recruiter have to make the decision of who should I be working with, right? It's really hard to figure out, and one job that works great on site 1 is not what's going to work great on site 2, right? It's just not ubiquitous in that manner, right? So in real time, we're figuring out who is the best publishers for that job based on the hiring outcomes they're looking for and the scale that they need, right? This can be cost per click, cost per apply, whatever model somebody's on, we can go buy on that method. The other interesting thing that we do is we don't just source from job sites. we also go to the rest of the World Wide Web. And this is pretty interesting because data generally says about 30% of people are looking for jobs actively at any given time, right? They're going to job sites. But about 80% of people that are workforce age are interested in seeing a job if it's a good fit for them, right? So when we go on the World Wide Web, we can do a lot of profiling in a way that you can't do on job sites. And we've actually seen some additional reach and really good cost efficiencies outside of the traditional job sites, right? So we kind of pair all of that put together, and we are not, we don't care who's the winner, who does the best job. We just care about doing a good job for our clients. And in real time, we are switching around the mix that we have for our clients so that we get the best results for them. Once again, we're leveraging data to maximize that return on spend. So whether it's the World Wide Web, whether it's job site 1, 2, or 3, whether it's pay per post or pay per click, we're moving spend around, we're moving budget around, and we're doing that on a job-by-job basis that our clients see the best results. And we're not just at the end of the day saying, hey, here are the candidate flow. We're also showing them this all in a transparent manner. This is incredibly important because you want to make sure that your platform can show you how every source is working for you to make sure that there's no wasted spend, right? At the end of the day, you have a recruitment organization that has to report back to a finance group and has to prove, hey, I'm being responsible fiscally with our money and making sure that we're spending money where we're seeing the best results. And this transparency is key. We give it right back to our clients to make sure that we're buying the best way on their behalf. We also like to not just track to the click and the apply, but also to the hire, right? So we're trying to integrate with every single applicant tracking system we can that our clients use so that we can get that funnel reporting back into our system and make the best decisions on their behalf, right? Because we see scenarios where not every click leads to an apply and not every apply leads to a hire, and it doesn't even do that at the same rate from source to source on job to job, right? In fact, we see some job sites do a great job and they're very efficient when you look at it on a cost per apply basis. But when you go to the cost per hire basis, which is what the direct employer actually cares about, there's a massive fall off for some from apply to hire, and others, it's like 2/3 of applies turn into a hire, right? So if we have that feedback loop on every job from the system back to the client, we can make sure we're being really efficient. The other piece, and this ties back to the transparency piece, is that we're not just transparent with our clients, we're also transparent with our publishers, right? So we want to take this funnel tracking and say, hey, job site 1, you sent us these clicks led to applies, and these clicks led to hires, and these clicks didn't, right? And we're talking about this in mass. When we have big campaigns with a publisher, and we can share them a ton of data, they can start saying, hey, you know what, this particular type of engagement, let's say they run, single click email, so somebody gets an email alert, they click on it, and it goes directly to the sponsoring source. That might convert at one rate, and something else where they click on the job, get sent back to the job site, and then click on the job again, that's going to convert much better. And then also different publishers in their own network might convert at different rates. And so if we give them that feedback loop, they can basically slice off the stuff that's not working and focus on the ones that are, and then we start spending more money with them, right? So once again, we want to be transparent end to end so that they see the best results and we get the best out of every publisher we can. And all of this kind of put together is all meant to just reduce the recruiter's efforts and get them on more productive stuff, right? All they have to do is basically get their jobs in our system, tell them the hiring outcomes they're looking for and what sort of budgets they have against that. And we do all of the work of sourcing and making sure we're efficient and effective so that they can focus on things like talking to the candidates, getting them from application to hire, and so on. We do this for some of the largest companies in the world, Adecco, Randstad. You'll see some staffing firms and RPOs. You'll see some direct employers. Where our sweet spot is people that have high volume hiring needs, because ultimately it's a data-driven concept, right? The more data we have in, the better of a job we can do for them. And ultimately, if they only have a handful of jobs or a non-repeatable need, in fact, we typically will say, hey, you're better off working with a job site on its own. So once again, we're focused on these high volume hiring needs that some of the largest companies in the world have. And that's about it on my end.
All right. I got a couple questions for you, Dan. So first off, and the audience as well, if you have any questions, throw them in the chat there. I'll ask Dan. There's a bunch of other programmatic players in the market. How do you think you guys differentiate yourselves?
Sure. And I think that everyone has their own value prop and why they do a good job or whatever. I would say that people like us, because of our transparency, because of our boutique approach and our neutral way we source, right? We aren't owned by a job site. We're not a job site our own. We don't own a job site. So you're not going to see Joveo on your source reports. What that means is we're never trying to kind of dig into ourselves as a source, and we can always stay net neutral on everything. Yep. We're always transparent, right? So that holds us accountable and make sure that, once again, that, you know, if a source isn't working, you can see that and you'll see us teeter off of it. And then we also take a boutique approach. What I mean by that is everyone has different goals. And ultimately, yes, they want hires, but some say, you know, my finance team goes insane if I don't spend almost the same amount every day, right, on an evergreen position. Or let's say it's a retail company opening new stores. Or sometimes we have RPOs that say, hey, brought in this new client, I want you to hammer candidate flow for the first X amount of days and then taper it off and send candidates evenly throughout the month after that first month or two, right?
Yep.
All of these are different ways that we can optimize, and there's many different ways we can optimize. So we want to understand on every single job type and category what somebody's prerogative is, and we basically optimize towards that and build custom rule sets towards that.
Gotcha. And give me a sense of just maybe a couple of examples of sort of average CPC prices for a couple of job titles out there that you know about. Maybe just give me a sense of that stuff.
I mean, it's honestly all over the place, you know, and it varies a lot from source to source. So I will say that we've seen over the past couple of years that everything is totally out of whack as to what it used to be. Like when I used to be on the job site, when I used to run job sites, for example, if somebody was giving me 40 cents a click for a warehouse job, I thought I was, you know, rich. These days, if you're paying less than $1 or so for warehouse positions, it's just not competitive, right? So we see warehouses incredibly competitive. I mean, some of the usual suspects like trucking, nursing are well over $1, you know, a click. And then you have certain areas where it's still tapering. But once again, I mean, I don't like to even focus on cost per click, because we think about hiring outcomes that somebody wants. Then we think about how do we optimize their content to get the best out of it and make sure that we're almost like reverse engineering job sites SEO, right? Because the way somebody searches for a job on Indeed versus Jobcase versus ZipRecruiter are very different, right? So we make sure we optimize the content first, then we think about CPC strategies, which, look, I mean, it all depends on what your funnel is, you know, and ultimately what the cost per hire is, right? So it's every company is so different, and every ATS and apply process leads to a different CPC strategy.
Sure, definitely.
I know that was a super vague answer. I don't mean to round about it.
No, you mentioned the warehouse price, things like that. So I just want to get an idea. All right, well, cool, man. Well, thanks for your time today. Put your contact info in the chat there for everybody. Put a link to Joveo, and we'll move on to our next vendor.
Sounds good, Chris. Thank you.
All right, Dan, thanks.
All right, bye.
Close him out there.